For the next speaker, we have someone who jumps directly to, so what are the countries doing? Aivo Kalu will tell you about zero knowledge in production wallets and in procurement.
Hello. My name is Aivo Kalu. I am lead security engineer. I would like to think of my work as I have to take what scientists and cryptographers think up, and I have to talk about it with my client, solve the problem of a client, and on the other hand, I have to go to programmers and explain it how they need to implement it. So I'm really happy that I can do this talk because I can leave out some of my frustration with the situation, and hopefully it will be a better world. So what I will talk about is explain a little bit what I think about, how I think about zero knowledge proofs, which standards or which production wallets I'm looking at, and I'm asking you if there is a problem and what could be done. So perhaps there is a problem. Right. So exactly the same slide as previous speaker with one little addition. Yes, in 2026 we have to deliver wallets. Yes, every member country has to deliver their own wallet. And I don't think that every member country, every member state will fulfill that promise. And in addition, in next year, 2028, the relying parties must be accept wallets as well. So that's another step that we have to think about. But this is the current situation. And what is zero knowledge proofs in terms of wallets? Standards development have moved from legislative work, or most of the heavy work has moved from legislation work to standards development. That would be the easy way to do it. So ETSI and CEN-CENELEC has been taking over, even so European Commission is still doing standards development as well in terms of implementation acts. They are specifically taking some standards and saying that clause do not apply anymore. So that's going to be tricky. But anyway, ETSI has come up with 2 standards. And they have explained how selective disclosure and zero knowledge proofs are going to be applied to an EAA, mean electronic attestation of attributes. Let's just call them verifiable credentials. All right, and there are like a classes of things here. So salted attribute hashes shows a standard functionality of STJOTs and MDOCs. This is out of box. It has been there already quite a while. It works. Every wallet will use them. But it's not zero knowledge proof. And as previous speaker explained, there is a problem of privacy. And so people have thought about it. So we will do patch issuance. We will only use verifiable credential once per relying party. And issuers will have to specify it in their policy. All right? And after that, because we learned from previous speak that it's not very good solution. After that comes real zero knowledge proofs. So European Commission has thought about that as well. There are discussion topics in public GitHub. TS4, TS14, I think we are going to talk about that as well today. And Americans have thought about that real hard. Longfellow is I would say a breakthrough innovation from Google. How they can do zero knowledge proofs on top of regular MDOCs and still have reasonable performance. And of course, there is a PBS signatures. So this is what I think is an advanced zero knowledge proof that we are actually looking forward to, and we would like to deploy. So at the moment, what we have is that this signature gets passed from wallet to verifier, and when we do that, we also have to pass public keys and so on, and it gets identifiable. What we would like to do is to replace this step 4 with a proof. So this is a thing that we are looking forward to. But it's not the whole world. The EUDI wallets are actually quite big things. And the wallet application itself is just a small box in the middle of a picture. So this is the interaction that we used to talk about. But the rest of the world also needs to be happening. And I would like to say that those authorities that are actually procuring wallets at the moment or building wallets at the moment, it's not easy task for them. And I understand that they have to think about the whole other pieces as well, and it's not easy. But anyway, so what kind of tenders we have been looking at? Latvia. Latvia started the journey in December last year with a budget of 4 million euros. It's not started yet. It's still in qualification phase. So nothing has been proposed. No work has started yet. Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a very nice country. They are doing development by themselves, but they figured that they will need one small component of wallet which deals with cryptography, and they decided to procure that from open market. The budget was quite small. They did request for proposal. To my knowledge, they haven't decided the winner yet. So again, like no production thing yet. Estonia have done quite many market consultations. They announced a request for proposal on Monday. Very good. Budget 21 million euros. That's spread over 5 years. So, but still, it's a significant amount of money. Finland. Finland also do development in their own, but they have looked at the situation and they decided that they need a little help. They would like to get a software development support and this crypto component as well. And they did a market consultation study. No request for proposal yet, but they still have the same deadline, end of the year. Lithuania, no information. Okay, this is a situation that we know about. Those are the money numbers and deadlines. It's actually a quite crazy situation. And the next table, we're going to spend some time here now. So what we can actually learn from the market consultation or request for proposals, what we actually see from there. All right, so let's go by column. The first column, selective disclosure. This is a standard functionality of SDJOTs and MDOCs. This is something that should be happening anyway. The tenders are pretty vague about it, actually. The best we can get is usually a reference to European Implementation Act, which links to the ISO standard, and which says that, yes, you have to do MDOCs, and then you have to do selective disclosure as well. Finland is much better. Finland actually refers to the specific ETSI standard, which refers to ISO standard, which refers to SDJOTs, and so on. All right? Germany. Germany is a new line here. They have a lot more money than other countries. They did a competition last year. So they invited 6 teams to participate in their wallet development, and they did 6 prototypes in order to figure out what is the best way forward, and now they have selected that, yes, we do it ourselves, and they have specifically said in the public documentation that, yes, we will do selective disclosure. Okay, next column, batch issuance and no reuse of credentials. This is where it's getting complicated. Only Germany is saying in a public documentation that yes, they will actually issue verifiable credentials in multiple copies, and their wallet will do this policy checking that have we presented that document to a relying party already or not. All right? Finland is also good. Finland actually refers to the ETSI standard that specifies the same thing. Okay. And last column, advanced zero-knowledge proof. So Longfellow and BBS Plus are 2 possible solutions. There are other possible solutions as well, but those are most like popular ones. All right? No specific information about that. And I have to say that, again, we are going very deep into the details here. If you think about the previous picture, the world is much larger than just a zero-knowledge proof of this wallet system. So we have to think about that, and we are quite early phase of tenders yet. So, all right. Only Finland is hinting of the possibility that perhaps they will need this kind of functionality from their wallet. And hinting, saying that really, in case European Commission develops an implementation act that specifically requests that, we will ask that from our vendor as well, or we will develop it as well. All right? So this is the situation at the moment. We have 6 countries, and only one of them is hinting on the possibility that they will actually deploy zero-knowledge proofs in production. So what were those ETSI standards about? This -3, I don't expect you to remember the numbers. So -3 is actually a profile of HYPE protocol, which is actually a profile of OpenID for VCI, which is a profile of OpenID Connect or something like that. So it's a ETSI standard. There is a very nice engineering put into it, and they are currently developing a way how issuer can specify in very granular details how the wallet should behave, and what are the possible options about credentials. Can I present it to everybody? Can I present it just once? Can I present it 10 times? Can I present it up to next week? Or something like that. And wallet has to keep track of it. Wallet has to understand that, for example, if per relying party policy is specified, it has to keep track that, yes, the user has already talked to that particular relying party, so in that case, I don't have to, I can't use it that particular credential for another relying party again. All right. -2 standard. This is a specific standard how to apply zero-knowledge proofs in wallets. And those advanced zero-knowledge proofs. It actually describes Longfellow profile and BBS Plus profile. So this is a real thing, right? It's what we are expecting and what we should be doing. The only problem is that it's not ready yet. And, well, some of the tenders are made up very cleverly. They are specifically asking for a certified wallet, and no certification rules are published yet. They are specifically asking that whatever software you are delivering, it has to be compliant with every legislation act. And in case legislation act changes, you have to be compliant with it anyway. So it doesn't really matter perhaps that the ETSI standard is not ready yet, and it's going to be ready perhaps by the end of the year or by the next year. So wallet vendors who deliver software have to be compliant with it anyway in the future. So we will see. I don't know what's going to happen. So is there a problem? Yes, I think so. Because production wallets should be operational by the end of the year. There are no standards. There are no successful tenders yet. And nobody really knows what to do about it. And as Olivier said, that in case we do something right now and we do the lowest possible solution, then it's quite easy to be satisfied with the next 10 years. All right? So what might be the problem? I will give you a couple of explanations or a couple of hypotheses. What I think might be the reasons of the current situation. So, option 1, option 0. The wallets are not really important anyway. It's not gonna fly anyway, and it doesn't really matter what we do here. I don't want to discuss that hypothesis, but I would like to list it anyway, that perhaps it's gonna work out that way. So, the clicker is not working. Can you move to the next slide, please? All right, good. So we have to be critical of the situation here as well. We only looked at the 6 countries, and we don't know what's it going to be like in the production. We don't know if Finland is actually going to implement and put it into production, and actually what is the configuration of the production. So Finland, we don't know. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania haven't published the requirements anyway. So Estonia has published a tender, but the requirements are not public. Latvia has published a tender, but the technical requirements are not public. So I'm just assuming here. And also there is still some time. I mean, it's May, we still have 8 months to go, so things can change. All right. What is another possible explanation is that so SDJOT and MDOC selective disclosure, it might be good enough, and perhaps this batch issuance and reuse policy is also good enough. I mean, it solves the problem. It can allow people to just disclose what data they want, and if we solve this linkage problem, then we are formally compliant with the law. Perhaps not. All right. Another hypothesis is that perhaps linked to the previous ones is that perhaps we don't need zero-knowledge proofs for wallets, because unlinkability requirement in a law is pretty vague anyway. Perhaps it can be like hand-waved away. And another topic here that corresponds to the system design or actual information system usage is that wallets have to do pseudonyms also. So relying party who really wants to offer privacy to the user, it can also do 2 pseudonyms. It can register WebAuthn credential and passkey credential or something like that in a wallet or in some other place. and it doesn't have to require user to present this very critical PID credential every time anyway. So that's possible thinking. All right. Now, more difficult question might be that, so perhaps this zero-knowledge proofs technology itself is too difficult and too expensive. Perhaps the procurers who are actually counting money and they have to build the whole world. In Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, perhaps it's not so bad. I mean, the digital identity solutions are there already, but I have seen countries, Ireland and Spain, Italy, who are looking at this wallet project, and they think that it's a great opportunity for them to build their society digital identity up from ground up. So they have to spend money elsewhere as well, not just zero-knowledge proofs. Perhaps this is just an expensive toy for them. But it's written in a law. So what do we do about that? All right, perhaps we will implement this batch issuance things then, so to be compliant with the law. Right. Another possible hypothesis is that perhaps it's not expensive, but perhaps this technology itself is not production ready. Perhaps it's not certified, perhaps it's not tested, perhaps regulatory authorities are not happy with this technology. And perhaps the conclusion is that European Parliament was too ambitious of this situation, and perhaps they set a too high goal for us. I don't think so. I don't buy it, because there are many examples where zero-knowledge proofs in universal way have been applied to production systems quite well, quite many times already, and quite big systems. Intel SGX technology, which is like a secure enclaves or something like that, they do anonymous attestations based on zero-knowledge proofs. And it's been there for 10 years already, and it's quite widespread. There are examples later on during the day how Estonia has been doing zero-knowledge proofs as well, and so on. So I wouldn't say that zero-knowledge proofs in general is not production ready. Perhaps it's an issue of specific options that are being sold as a best option, but we will see. Right. What do we do? So situation is really bad. What can we do about it? I don't think that we should be panicking. We have to live on. So what could be done? Engage with your client. So the person who actually pays money to implement this kind of system. Talk to the person, talk to the organization, and figure out what are the pain points and whether some other things are more important perhaps, but also like how zero-knowledge proofs are really solving their pain points as well, how it should be included. What I'm worried about is that even though ETSI standards are currently being developed for batch issuance and other things, this is fairly critical to test it, because so far certificate authorities and overall digital ID systems, they are working on the assumptions that registration is like a one-time registration, and issuance is like a one-time procedure. You do it once a year. You do it, I don't know, once every 6 months, perhaps, if you get a new phone or something like that. With ID cards, you do it once per 5 years. With with batch issuance and per relying party policies, you have to do issuance so much more often, and it might impact this production level load very much. So how many technical infrastructure you need is kind of depending how many credentials you are issuing, how many keys you are generating, and so on. Another things that we have to do anyway is to go to those standards developing organizations, be a member, go to the working groups, see what other people are doing there, and try to come up with a workable solution there. And finally, of course, so what we are doing today as well, very much, talk to your favorite academic researchers, see what they think about, what kind of solutions they offer, and also government regulatory authorities. They have a real job to do as well. Well, it's not easy for them as well to be sure about completely new technology and to allow that into a market and to say that yes, our country economy is going to depend on that, and it's going to be good. It's perfectly secure and fine. Right.
Thank you very much. So it had a different feeling to this. So now I put these two talks next to each other intentionally. Now, do you have any questions? Yes, please.
Do you have understanding that your potential customers, countries know what they are wishing for? Because ordering wallet and ordering some technical things inside the capabilities of wallet is a different things.
I think some countries definitely do know what they want, but it takes quite a lot of hard work and it takes time. So yes, I wouldn't name any specific country that doesn't know what they're doing, but it's difficult.
Okay, good. Next question. Yes, please, Janna.
So maybe I missed this point and you already talked about it, but what precisely does EU say about privacy then? Is it some very vague features? What kind of privacy is needed for these wallets, or what do they exactly say?
What do they exactly say? Then I have to refer to the specific clause from eIDAS 2 legal text. I can't quote it from heart. Basically, it says that wallet interactions should be private and there should be unlinkability. So, but exactly what does it mean is being specified in those implementation acts and in the appropriate technical standards. So, like I said, one particular technical standard is currently being written, and the person who really writes it, he's struggling with exact the same situation. That what is the intention of the lawmaker, and how to translate them into testable requirements.
Thanks.
So you can continue discussing during the break. Thank you very much, Aivo.
Thank you.